A Tier 1 Special Forces team is gearing up for a rescue operation. Among them is Sergeant JJ, affectionately nicknamed Playboy Kinney, a young and somewhat green JTAC officer preparing for his first mission with the elite unit. As he selects snacks for the journey, Master Sergeant John Sugar Sweet makes his approach. The nerves of Playboy become strikingly evident, revealing his inexperience. Master Sergeant Sugar checks in with Playboy, asking if he's Halo certified. Playboy admits he hasn't got that certification. Sugar, not missing a beat, assures him he'll manage just fine and informs him they're set to depart in 5 minutes before leaving the room. Inside the plane, a team of 4 men, including Sugar and Playboy, gets briefed on the mission, which is to rescue a CIA spy in the southern Philippines with the minimum number of casualties. The spy was gathering intel on Alexandra Petrov, a Russian arms dealer and former KGB member. We are then introduced to Captain Eddie Grimm, also known as Reaper. He's a U.S. Air Force drone pilot who will assist the team with air support from a drone. Captain Reaper is a man obsessed with order, and as a result, his relationship with his co-workers is not good. For instance, when he is getting ready for work, his partner tries talking to him about her wedding plans, but he ignores her and goes on with what he's doing. Before he goes into the operation, he asks his co-workers who are watching basketball to get him if his wife calls the office phone because she is pregnant and might go into labor soon. He also asks them to reduce the TV volume. Nevertheless, they seem unbothered. Once on the plane, Playboy Kinney shares with the team that he'll be handling the drone operations. He half jokes that if it comes down to him having to shoot, they're all in a tight spot. He also confesses that this is his first mission working alongside such elite operators. The soldiers exchange uneasy glances at this revelation. An inexperienced teammate could potentially slow them down. However, they encourage him to stay sharp and lean on his training. The brief exchange among the team members gives way to a focused silence as they approach their destination. They're reminded once more to keep the communication lines open at all times. Then, the moment arrives. The plane's door opens, unleashing the roar of the wind. They take a deep breath, and one after the other, dive into the night, ready to face whatever lies below. When they land, Playboy gives the coordinates to Captain Reaper, their eye in the sky. After the team has settled, Reaper leaves his partner in charge of the drone and goes to check in with Lucy, his wife. Reaper exits the room before his partner can continue with a conversation they were having earlier about the wedding. Back in the woods, we see the soldiers surveying their surroundings, and Playboy hears something, so he sends the coordinates to Reaper for a good view through the drone. Back at the base, Reaper and his partner take a look at the area when all of a sudden their computers glitch. Because of the glitch, Reaper tells Playboy that he needs to send the drone back to the base to have it checked out. So the drone returned back to base, leaving Playboy and his team without air support. Despite having no air support, Playboy and the team arrive at their destination, and everyone takes their place. Sergeant Sugar gives an order to count everyone in the compound before they make a move. A few minutes later, they see Petrov and his family in the area. Back at the base, Reaper goes to check on the phone and gets pissed at the team when he sees someone has turned the ringer off and no one is paying attention to the phone. Meanwhile, back in the wild, Sugar and his team notice Petrov making a move. Moments later, they see cars approaching the area. Sugar asks Bishop to confirm if that is Abu Sayyaf approaching the area, and Bishop confirms positive back at base. We see Reaper playing golf as he waits for the drone to get fixed. His partner comes in and tells him that the drones are fixed and they are good to go with the operation. As the team observes Petrov introducing Abu Sayyaf to his wife, they suddenly see Abu Sayyaf shooting Petrov in the back, which starts a deadly battle between Petrov's men and Abu Sayyaf's men. Petrov's son tries to run away, and one of Abu Sayyaf's men runs after him. Another man working for Abu Sayyaf captures Petrov's wife, holds her down, and beheads her in front of her helpless husband. Then Abu Sayyaf calls for the son to be brought to him. Sugar's team is shocked by what just happened. One of Sugar's team members, Abel, tells Sugar that he isn't going to watch Abu Sayyaf cut the boy's head. Sugar tells Abel and Bishop to shoot if they get a clear shot. They also ask if Reaper can drop a bomb, and Reaper tells them he is on it as he tries to get the drone back on site in time. Abu Sayyaf raises his machete, but before he goes through with it, Abel shoots him on the leg, and right after, the bomb drops. In the chaos, Petrov's son manages to run away. The team is relieved that they rescued the boy, but the situation starts getting worse for them. Playboy Kinney hears some noise coming from under him and calls his teammates. Sugar turns to look at Playboy's location and sees that Playboy was lying on top of a cave entrance, and men were coming out of it. Sweet tells Playboy not to move or even breathe, but Playboy starts moving away slowly. One of the men from inside the cave hears Playboy and climbs up to look. When Playboy looks up, he comes eye to eye with the enemy. Bishop shoots the man who saw Playboy, but before Playboy moves further back, a hand grenade is thrown in front. He quickly pushes it away, but it accidentally blows up the cave entrance he was at. More enemies appear at that moment, and the whole team gets into a dangerous shootout. One of Sugar's men, Abel, gets shot in the ensuing chaos. Playboy reaches Abel and desperately tries to save him, but it is too late. Sugar tells him Abel is dead. Playboy moves to another vantage point and sees some enemies firing missiles towards Sugar and Bishop. He quickly orders for Reaper to bomb them, and Reaper acts instantly. Unfortunately, right before the enemies are taken out, one of their missiles blows up Sugar and Bishop's location. Sergeant Playboy Kinney leaves the compound and finds a place to hide. Reaper asks him what the team's status is, and Playboy replies that they have all been killed in action, leaving the young, inexperienced soldier to survive on his own. Reaper confirms Playboy's location and sends him an extraction helicopter. Noticing Playboy's disoriented state as they make their way to the extraction zone, Playboy finally arrives at the extraction point. Everything was silent, and there was no enemy around, so he calls for the helicopter. The helicopter begins making its way to Playboy's position, and everyone starts believing that the mission will be a success. Playboy begins moving towards the helicopter, believing that he will finally escape to safety. But right as he starts moving, Abu Sayyaf's men reach him and start shooting at him. Playboy asks the pilot if he can stay in the area until they find a secure landing zone, but the helicopter gets targeted with heavy fire, and RPG missiles miss it by inches, so the pilot says that the area is too hot and leaves. Playboy is left to defend himself against a small army. The forest that was silent and dark just minutes ago is lit up with bullets and explosions. He asks Reaper for air support, and Reaper drops a bomb. But more and more enemies appear in the area. Playboy holds his own against Abu Sayyaf's men until more air support arrives and clears all the enemies in the area. When he gets a chance to breathe, Reaper tells him of another landing zone he will have to get to. At sunrise, we see Playboy heading to the next landing zone while talking to Reaper. He accidentally slips and falls into a river, dropping his rifle on the ground. At that moment, Reaper tells him that there are people heading towards him, and shortly after, Playboy gets into a shootout with the enemies using his handgun. When he gets an opening, Playboy runs as far as he can from his enemies, but the moment he stops to catch his breath, he finds a gun pointed at his face. Back at the base, Reaper sees Playboy getting captured and calls for the colonel. Reaper tells the colonel that he has an operative who has been taken by the enemy. Reaper makes a request for permission to stay in the chair and pilot the drone until the soldier is back home. Seeing the weight of the situation, the colonel grants Reaper permission, and he also tells them to get it done. As Reaper and his partner look for where Playboy might have been taken, they come across information that the CIA asset that was supposed to be rescued might be in Yemen, and not where Playboy and the special forces went. Back in the land of Bad, we see a hooded man attacking the camp where Playboy is being held. It is Master Sergeant John Sugar Sweet, who appears to be alive. Sugar sets Playboy free and tells him that Bishop has been captured by Abu Sayyaf, and they have to go get him. Playboy contacts Reaper and tells him that they are going back to the initial layout, Petrov's compound. Reaper thinks that they are going there to look for the CIA they were sent to rescue, and tells them not to go there because the agent has been found elsewhere. But Playboy tells Reaper that they are going to rescue Bishop. Playboy asks Sugar if he knows exactly where they are holding Bishop, but Sugar says he doesn't. They make a plan to launch 3 bombs. The first bomb is to create a distraction, the second is to create a diversion, and the last is to take out the enemies in the cave. Playboy calls Reaper and tells him he needs 3 attacks 15 minutes apart, and the first attack should start at 11 o'clock. Playboy explains the plan to Reaper, but before Reaper confirms the plan, they get disconnected. Back at base, the colonel tells Reaper to get out of the chair since his shift is over, but Reaper refuses. He tells the colonel that he was allowed to see the mission through. They get into a heated argument with the colonel, but Reaper finally and unreluctantly leaves the room. Back at Petrov's compound, Sergeant Sugar and Playboy are about to begin their attack on the enemy's territory. Playboy is nervous because he isn't used to combat, so Sugar gives him some instructions and tells him that he might finally earn his Tier 1 status today. The two quietly infiltrate the house and quietly take out some of Abu Sayyaf's men, but before they can proceed further, an enemy sees them and shoot at them, blowing their cover. Sugar and Playboy take the fight outside, where it turns into a full-blown shootout. Sugar gets shot during the fight, but it is not fatal, and he survives. The two fight hard until a grenade is thrown at them. In the next scene, we see Bishop, Sugar Sweet, and Playboy locked in cells. Playboy calls out to the kidnappers and tells them that bombs are going to be fired there soon, but they don't listen to him. Instead, Abu Sayyaf and his men come with a camera and pull Sugar out of his cell, then execute him with a shot on the head while filming in front of Playboy and Bishop. Abu Sayyaf then knocks on Playboy's cell door and tells him welcome to Guantanamo, leaving the young man feeling defeated and devastated. And we hear the first drone strike lands in the background. Back at base, we see Reaper in his car, leaving the base. He looks uncomfortable, but it's the colonel's order. Abu Sayyaf's men take Playboy out of his cell and take him to Abu Sayyaf himself. The villain tortures Playboy and asks him where the other commandos are, and Playboy replies that there are no more soldiers, just them. Abu Sayyaf doesn't believe Playboy and tells him there are jets still in the area, which means someone is out there still communicating with them. Playboy explains that he was the one communicating with those jets and that there are more attacks on the way, but Abu Sayyaf refuses to believe him, and he orders his men to drown Playboy in the bathtub. As Playboy is getting tortured, we see Reaper in a supermarket shopping for groceries from a list given to him by his wife away from the base. At the base, the jets are ready to fire and have fired the second bomb. The caves where Playboy is being held erupt in deadly flames, but Playboy, who is being shoved into a bathtub, survives the flames, and the men torturing him get wiped out. Playboy tries to make his way out of the destroyed cave. On the way, he grabs a machete and finds the asset they were supposed to rescue, so he takes him. He goes to free Bishop and finds Abu Sayyaf laughing, and the two get into a final face-off. Sayyaf tries to pull out his gun and shoot Playboy, but Playboy stabs Sayyaf with the machete, ending the maniac's life. Playboy grabs Abu Sayyaf's satellite phone and sets Bishop free. The survivors begin making their way out. Playboy calls the Air Force Base to tell them to abort the third strike since they are still at the enemy base and will be caught in the explosion. But the soldiers at base are watching the game and ignore the call. One of the men watching the game finally takes Playboy's call, but when Playboy asks for Reaper, the man just gives him Reaper's phone number and hangs up the phone before Playboy could say anything. Playboy tries to call Reaper on his cell number, but Reaper hangs up since he is on the phone with his wife, so Playboy leaves him a voicemail. As Reaper waits in line to pay for his groceries, he decides to listen to the voice message and finds out it was Playboy asking for the third strike to be aborted. Reaper abandons his groceries and rushes back to base. On his way, he tries to call the base, but the soldiers are concentrated on the TV and they ignore the phone. Reaper arrives at the last second and is able to stop the last bomb from getting fired. The jets that were going to blow up Petrov's compound fly over Playboy and the other survivors, and relieved that he has survived, Playboy waves towards the sky at Reaper's drone. The CIA asset asks who Playboy is waving at, and Playboy just answers a friend, meaning Reaper, who has just saved their lives. Reaper hears his co-workers celebrating their win. Reaper goes into the room and gives a speech filled with anger. 3 men nearly died because the crew was too distracted with the TV. When he's done, he smashes the break room's television using a golf club and walks away. In the last scene, we see Reaper's partner asking him to walk her down the aisle. He asks her what song they will dance to, then tells her to listen to his hands and dance with her, and this is how the movie ends. Heroes tested, limits breached. Hit like if you felt the courage. Subscribe for more epic tales. Remember, the brave never stand alone. Thanks for watching.